So I'm Carolyn. I'm from Massachusetts, about 45 minutes west of Boston. I am a registered dietitian and I do have my master's in strength and conditioning exercise science from Springfield College in Massachusetts. I realized working clinically as a dietitian, it was not for me. I needed to work with the athlete. So I pursued my master's in exercise science. I do teach at University of Massachusetts Amherst, and I'm a lover of many things. I love traveling. I just came back from a trip to the Caribbean last weekend. It was a nice vacation. I needed it. I love reading, mountains, coffee. I have an espresso machine that I got during quarantine. Love craft beer. Cows are my favorite animal, and authentic food. Vietnamese, Thai, and Mexican are my top three. But I just love spicy food in general. So my nutrition principles, I'll begin each class with this just so you can see where I'm coming from when it comes to my nutrition philosophy and how the messages I like to relay to athletes, to people. I am evidence-based. I am very open-minded, so people can present anything to me. But I do question everything and will ask like, oh, what's the research behind this? And with all that nutrition information out there, you cannot believe everything you read. There's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of people endorsing different things, and we'll have a whole class on fad diet supplements and how to read between the lines when it comes to those things. There are no such thing as good or bad foods, cheat days, remove those from your vocabulary. It's all about that 80% quality, nutrient dense foods and 20% your favorite foods and beverages. That's the sustainable quote unquote diet to have because we do need to enjoy our food and our favorite foods. I call them fun foods. I'm very habit based versus diet based. Meal planning is very, very challenging because it's not changing your behavior and it's not sustainable. If I just give you a meal plan, you're not building autonomy with your nutrition. I'm all about intuitive fueling. So research shows diets don't work. So intuitive fueling is being in tuned with your body, knowing your hunger cues, your fullness cues, but with performance nutrition, knowing what practical hunger is. So knowing you should fuel because you're about to run or move. Pay attention to how foods make you feel. So if foods are making you feel low energy, bloated, you feel like crap, maybe you should readjust and find foods that make you feel good. Do not underestimate the power of your gut health. I've been reading a lot about gut health and the brain. So feeding your gut can also feed your brain and mental health. And avoid the comparison trap. So don't compare yourself to those on social media, your friends, someone doing the same exact training as you. I mean, you can't compare yourself to them when it comes to fuel and overall well-being. So, what does it mean to be healthy? You guys can unmute yourself or chat it in. I'm going to try to make this interactive. What do we think it means to be healthy? Sleep right, eat right, great, all components of being healthy. So according to the World Health Organization, it's a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. And I like thinking about nutrition and fueling sustainably with this quote. With your diet, are you physically healthy, mentally healthy, and still socially healthy, still able to go out with friends and enjoy the social aspect of fuel? What are some things that determines our food choices? There are many things. So availability. So do we have it available? Can we afford it? Do we have grocery stores close, or are we in food desert? So there's nothing close to us. Our lifestyle, cultural and family background, social acceptability. So what are we surrounded by? So we're surrounded by food advertising all the time, promotion, food and diet trends, and there's research that if we go out to eat with friends and they order a burger, we're more likely to order a burger versus vice versa. If they order a salad, you're more likely to order a salad. And like date trends too, like you're going on a date, you're probably not going to order something that will get stuck in your teeth or go all over your clothes. So other considerations, personal preference. So probably not going to choose to eat if it smells weird or tastes bad, or texture. There's a lot of people who have texture sensitivities. Psychological and emotional factors. So are we stressed? Are we busy? Are we bored? Um, and then health concerns. So are we allergic to foods? Are we intolerant to foods? And then certain metabolic disorders will also come into play when it comes to choosing our food choices. So food does provide nutrients, and now we'll get into the nitty gritty of quote unquote nutrients 101. So there are essential and non-essential nutrients. So essential nutrients are those that we need to consume from food. We do not make them in our body, so they have to come from food. Essential fatty acids like omega-3 fatty acids is an example of that. And many vitamins and minerals, we don't make many. We make a few in our gut, but we need to get a lot of them from our food. Phytochemicals and antioxidants. So phytochemicals, so like phyto meaning photosynthesis, you might think, oh, plants. So those are chemicals coming from plants that act as antioxidants. So they kill bad things in our body. So antioxidants can reduce the risk of disease, cancer. It prevents the damaging of our DNA. So eating a wide variety of phytochemicals, usually we see that in colors, will help with our well-being. We then have macronutrients and micronutrients, and I'll go through each of them today. So our macronutrients are what we need in macro, big amounts. So our carbs, protein, lipids, and water. And then micronutrients are our vitamins and minerals. So we need in smaller quantities, more like milligrams, micrograms versus macronutrients we need in grams or ounces when it comes to water. So carbs, lipids, and proteins. So these macronutrients provide us with energy. We see them as calories in food. They are transformed to like the working form of energy in our body, ATP, and we need energy to do everything our body needs to do. So looking at this chart, you can see fats or lipids provide the most energy per gram. So if you are maybe you have a sensitive stomach, but you're running 6 hours, you're running an ultra, getting more fats in you might give you more bang for your buck because they're more energy dense and calorie dense versus carbohydrates and protein won't give you as many calories. Alcohol also provides calories, not an essential nutrient. We don't need alcohol, but it is going to give us energy and calories. So we consume this energy. So how are we burning energy? So there are three components of what our body does to burn energy. So we have our basal metabolic rate. So this is if you were literally to not move, you just stayed in bed, you didn't go to the bath, you didn't get up to go to the bathroom, you didn't get up to brush your teeth. This accounts for up to 75% of our energy requirements. And it's dependent on body size, so height, weight, if you have your body composition, sex, age, and of course, genetics. But a key here is those who go too low in energy our metabolism slows down drastically. So it's so important to consume enough energy to meet that rate so we don't become, we call it metabolically adapted, or you just kind of hit a plateau and you don't lose weight because you are so restricted from energy. And this chart here kind of just shows like a 120-pound female, just for our essential organs to function, needs about 1,200 calories. And then a 150-pound male needs about 1,500 calories. And this is just to function if you were to lay in bed and not move. And if you go below that, you will kind of go into starvation mode and just hit a plateau with that weight loss or weight gain, whatever your goal is. So going back, we also burn energy just to absorb, metabolize, and eat food and digest food. I guess I have absorbed twice there, but digest food, we also burn energy. The higher protein you consume, so higher protein diet, the thermal effect of food, or the energy burned with fuel, does go up. And then we have our physical activity, which ranges from 0% to up to 40% of energy expenditure, depending on who you are. But this is planned movement. So if you run, hike, swim, lift, and also just activities of daily living. So fidgeting, walking at work, typing, brushing your teeth, cooking, all those things that you don't think of as physical activity, but you're still burning energy. So again, consuming enough of this energy from our carbs, protein, and fats is so crucial just to allow our bodies to function in general. So we have carbohydrates, our first energy yielding nutrient. Many sources of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates get a bad rep. Do not be afraid of carbohydrates. Fruits, starchy vegetables, grains, legumes, dairy, honey, maple syrup, just table sugar in general will all provide carbohydrates. The number one reason to consume carbohydrates is energy. It's our primary energy source. It's the primary fuel for our brain and our red blood cells. It promotes gut health. So some of the long-term research on the ketogenic diet in particular, being high fat, low carb, is it really can decrease our gut health and may decrease that microbiome and that amazing bacteria we have in our gut because they're not consuming carbohydrates. It also spares protein. If you're consuming enough carbohydrates, you're not going to break down your muscle and break down your protein stores. We know adequate glycogen, which is our storage form of carbohydrates, is optimal for performance, and not only long endurance exercise, but high intermittent intensity work. So lifting, sprints, whatever your high intensity work may be. We use our muscle glycogen, or our storage form of carbohydrate, for energy. But we use our liver glycogen to maintain our blood glucose levels to fuel our brain. So if you ever experience hangry, or you hit a wall during a workout, or you bonked, it's your blood sugar is very, very, very low, and your brain's telling you that. So I threw in some recommendations here of how many carbohydrates to consume in a day. You want about 6 to 10 grams per kilogram of body weight, or at least 50% of your calories. And you want to consume it 3 to 4 hours throughout the day, not just at one meal, of course. So then we have protein. So protein's in everything, and people are worried about not getting enough protein, even vegetarians or plant-based athletes, and I'll have a whole class on that. But it's very rare to become deficient in protein. I have never, other than someone clinically ill in the hospital, I've never seen an athlete deficient in protein. But our sources are meat, poultry, seafood, dairy, eggs, soy, quinoa, nuts, seeds, beans, grains, even fruits and vegetables have a little bit of protein. Our main role of protein is structure and our muscle mass, but it also has so many other roles as it helps with metabolism. It metabolizes with enzymes, hormones. So our hormones specifically that help with digestion and help with blood glucose control, or our protein-based hormones, regulates fluid balance. So you may have heard of edema, which is like fluid overload. Sometimes we see that in people who are just not consuming enough protein. Antibodies, so our immune defense is protein, especially during the year of COVID, making sure you're getting enough protein and energy for our antibodies, and then growth and repair. It is not a significant source of energy. So this is why we want to make sure we're consuming enough carbohydrates and fat so we don't start tapping into our protein stores and our lean body mass, because we don't want to use it for energy. We want to use it for our muscles, our enzymes, our hormones, and all the other vital functions that protein gives us. So the general population wants about 0.8 grams per kilogram, but athletes do need more just because of that breakdown component that exercise presents. So endurance athlete recommendations are about 1.5 to 2 grams per kilo per day. This can definitely even go higher if you are recovering from injury or illness or a surgery. And the 2 grams is really if you are doing cardio, like aerobic exercise, and also lifting and doing strength work. You do want to make sure you're getting protein every 3 to 5 hours. The research shows that this rate of consuming protein every 3 to 5 hours instead of going long times without protein will help with that protein growth, muscle mass growth and increase in strength. And then we have fats. So we have 2 types of fats. We have saturated fat and unsaturated fat. You can consume both. If you want to consume saturated fat a little less often, more in moderation. So this is our solid fats, our animal fats, butter, coconut oil. These have been shown to increase the risk of cardiovascular disease in humans. Unsaturated fats are fatty fish, oils, avocados, nuts, seeds, more of our plant-based sources, and fish. These have been shown to be anti-inflammatory, so reducing that inflammation that comes with exercise and just activities of daily living. So incorporating more of those. Fat is our energy. So most of us are probably sitting right now or not doing much movement. We are burning majority of fat. We burn fat at low intensities. Whereas as soon as we stand up and start like doing jumping jacks, we'll start burning more carbohydrate. It forms our cells, protects us, insulates us. Hormones, testosterone, estrogen, cortisol are all lipid-based, fat-based hormones. So if we aren't consuming enough fat, we aren't going to produce those hormones and can cause tremendous performance detriments. Fat also can increase fullness or satiety. And then a lot of us have probably tried a fat-free version of a food and a full-fat version of a food. And you can probably agree that the full fat version tastes a little bit better. Those who claim that Halo ice cream is ice cream, don't believe them. It's not ice cream. There's no fat in it. It's just the taste and texture of ice cream is what makes ice cream. But less than 20% of our calories from fat can compromise performance. So not only are we decreasing our production of testosterone and estrogen, which are building hormones, they're going to help us build bone, build muscle, but we can increase the risk of deficiency in some of our vitamins, our fat soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, and then omega-3 fatty acids as well, which are anti-inflammatory, help with blood pressure, and a lot of amazing things that omega-3s do. So you do want to consume 20 to 35% of your calories from fat. Avocados are my favorite form of fat, so here's an avocado affirmation. So water is the next macronutrient, and I threw in electrolytes in here a little bit, but the majority of our body is water, and I would argue a lot of athletes are not hydrated, and dehydration as little as 2% of body weight can impact performance tremendously. And the key is being hydrated every single day, morning, night, not just through exercise. Um, Water has many functions, which I listed here. A big one being it transports everything to our muscles and away from our muscles, and it regulates our body temperature. If you stop sweating or it is 100 degrees and you are not sweating, you are chronically dehydrated because that you don't have enough water to eliminate that heat. Recommendations out there, it says half your body weight in ounces. That's very low for athletes. So I mostly go up to the 3/4 to the full body weight in ounces. There's an example for a 150-pound person. But it's really just having a water bottle on you all the time, sipping it throughout the day. And then we have electrolytes and sodium, potassium chloride. These are minerals, so I'll talk a little bit about them in a bit. But I did want to bring up hyponatremia. So we can't just drink water. We need to make sure we are having sodium as well. This is the number one thing we lose in our sweat. Some of you might sweat and you get like a white crust around you after things dry. That means you are a very salty sweater. So we'll need to consume sodium during exercise or use a little salt shaker with your meals. But 2 hours, you may lose up to 1,600 milligrams of sodium. So to put that into perspective, the dietary guidelines or the recommendations per day is 2,300 milligrams of sodium. So you can lose quite a bit, especially if you're going out for 26 to 24 hours, 30 hours, whatever it may be. You might get a headache, swollen hands, feet, you might get wheezy, so low breathing, and it can lead to seizures, coma, and death. So especially if you are in hot conditions, making sure you are consuming salt on top of water. And sports drinks, depending on what you drink, might not have that much sodium in them. So even adding a little bit more may not be a bad idea. But telltale sign, your urine color. Make sure it's lemonade, not apple juice. And this is even first thing in the morning, making sure it is that light color to confirm that you are hydrated from the day before. So then we have our vitamins. So moving into our micronutrients, we do have water soluble and fat soluble vitamins. Water soluble are all our B vitamins. We might have heard of these as like our energy vitamins. If you're taking like an energy drink or an energy pill of some kind, they probably have B vitamins in them. And then there's vitamin C, which is an antioxidant, collagen synthesis. We may have heard it helps reduce the common cold, which is true, but you need to consume vitamin C before you actually get sick for it to have its effects. But vitamin C is important because it helps enhance the absorption of minerals, so iron being an example, and collagen synthesis, which is the repair of a collagen, which is a very abundant protein in our body. Then we have fat soluble vitamins, so A, D, E, and K. Vitamin A, you might have heard of, like carrots are good for our vision. So vitamin A is good for our vision, also acts as an antioxidant. Then we have vitamin D. I put the recommendations of vitamin D in here because those of us in the Northeast or the northern hemisphere don't get much vitamin D right now. We finally are. But vitamin D, there's so much new research out there of what it's doing for us, but it's important not only for bone health, but it's anti-inflammatory, may help with immune function, protects against cardiovascular disease, some autoimmune diseases like type 1 diabetes, an example, and certain types of cancer. A lot of exciting research coming out about vitamin D. I don't take many supplements, but vitamin D is the one supplement I do take. Vitamin E is also fat soluble vitamin, acts as an antioxidant. So again, reducing those bad things in our body, allowing us to recover quicker, protects our cells. And then vitamin K, I think vitamin K, kale, there's a lot of vitamin K in kale. This helps with bone health, blood clotting. Vitamins are not something you need to take in a supplement. As long as you are consuming a well-balanced diet, I have a chart here that you can see that, but these vitamins are in almost every food if you are eating whole foods such as grains, vegetables, fruits, dairy, and protein. Then minerals, there's so many minerals, so I kind of broke it down into minerals that are important for athletes and runners, but electrolytes being the first. So again, these help with fluid balance, but also nerve and muscle function. So we have sodium chloride, which is our table salt. So this is where we're getting sodium and chloride. We do want about 2,300 milligrams per day, and this is if you were not moving. Sodium is in everything. So unless you are not consuming any processed food, even like bread has quite a bit, you don't really have to worry about sodium unless you are a very, very salty sweater and you are exercising for a very, very long period of time. You will have to consider sodium. Then there's potassium. So these are in our beans, potatoes, bananas, vegetables. There's this myth out there that potassium helps with cramps and muscle recovery after exercise. The electrolyte that helps with that is sodium. So make sure you're consuming enough sodium. Potassium will also help with cramps, but not as much as sodium will. If you have a predisposition of high blood pressure, potassium actually lowers your blood pressure, lowers your blood pressure to even things out if you do have high blood pressure. Then we have calcium. So this not only is for bone health, but does help with nerve and muscle function. Found in dairy products, but fortified foods, fish with bones, tofu, kale, almonds. If you are lactose intolerant or choose to not consume dairy, you can still get plenty of calcium from other foods. Then we have iron, so 8 milligrams per day for males, 18 milligrams per day for females. If you are a female, I would recommend getting your iron checked every year. I mean, males too, it's not a bad idea. We lose a little bit more iron than males due to menstruation. And then if you are a plant-based athlete, consider getting your ferritin and transferrin checked as well, because you aren't consuming that heme iron or that very bioavailable, readily absorbed iron from our beets. So fortified cereals, also, again, if you eat fortified foods, they have pretty much every mineral and vitamin in them. But beans, leafy greens, molasses, dried fruit will provide plenty of iron, whole grains as well. But the key role of iron is oxygen delivery for our muscles and just every cell in our body. So we have our hemoglobin, which is in our blood, and then our myoglobin, which is in our muscles. If you are feeling fatigued and training's going well, nutrition you think is going well, you're sleeping enough, iron could be the culprit there. So getting that checked. And then we have magnesium. This is getting a little bit more well-known in the nutrition world and just in its effects. It's important for bone health, energy metabolism. It's very important for the heart, nerve and muscle function. It's found in a lot of things, chocolate being one of the number one sources. Avocado, soy, whole grains, leafy greens, beans, and nuts is also a great source of magnesium. But putting it all together, this is a visual from Precision Nutrition, which does have a lot of great resources of what servings look like. And depending on who you are, a serving of protein might be double to triple this. The serving of vegetables might be double to of triple to this. So not taking this as a rule of thumb, quote unquote. I know these are your hands. And then this is a plate that I love. You can see the majority of that plate is carbohydrates. And then a third of it is protein. And then, of course, fats we get from our protein sources and our carbohydrates. You can see there is still a little sliver of our favorite foods and beverages. And that's why I really enjoy this plate. But next class, June 9th, I know I started really late, so I tried to get through that. I will be diving into the nitty gritty of performance nutrition. So how we can take all this information of these nutrients and build them into performance plates, meals, snacks, what to think about for fueling for performance and recovery. So pre, during, and post exercise nutrition and hydration. So to wrap up, I want you all to just think about everything I just went through really, really quickly. But I am big in goal setting every day, thinking of something you learned from today, and set a goal to do tomorrow. So love this saying, for long-term victory, set short-term goals. And this is, what can you do tomorrow? What can you do this week to get to that long-term goal? Be specific, realistic, and always state it positively. So not what aren't you going to do, but what are you going to do? So an example I have here is, you might be thinking, I need to drink more water. But instead, that specific, realistic goal may be, I'm going to drink a glass of water right after I wake up every morning this week. So that is all I had today. I'm going to stop recording. This is my email, and we'll bring it back as a group. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have, and we'll take some time to write down a goal, because I believe in writing down goals or putting them in your phones. That way you have them available.